This is Neo and Jiho's Love Story Part 48. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you stay updated. Now back to the hospital. The doors of the operation wing hissed open, releasing a burst of sterile air into the corridor. Dr. Sophie Lee stepped out, her mask still looped around her neck, her eyes sharp but shadowed with intensity. Her gloves bore the faint trace of iodine and disinfectant. The fine strands of her curly hair clung damply near her forehead despite the surgical cap. She looked straight at Jiho, who had been standing like a sentinel in the hallway, his shoulders squared, his phone clutched tight in his hand as though it were a lifeline. "Mr. Jiho," she said in crisp English-accented Korean, her voice low but unwavering. "She is critical. Physically, we are doing everything, lavage, IV access, respiratory support, but—" She paused, her gaze narrowing, weighing each word before she released it. "It is not only her body. Her mind seems to have given up. Do you understand? She is not fighting us." Jiho's jaw tightened. His posture was that of a soldier, disciplined and still, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. "Explain," he said, his voice steady, almost too steady. Sophie drew closer, lowering her tone. "This kind of overdose, sometimes the system shuts down because the patient no longer wants to live. Her heart beats because we push it, but her brain, her will, remains silent. If we cannot awaken that will, her chances reduce every minute. I need to know if she has a reason to stay. Family, children, a husband, someone she clings to." Jiho inhaled sharply through his nose, his mind racing. The question was not medical, it was personal, intimate. For a brief second he considered refusing, hiding the truth as always, but the urgency in Sophie's eyes made refusal impossible. She was not asking out of curiosity. She was demanding the one tool that might wrench Bora back from the edge. He hesitated. And in that hesitation, Sophie saw the soldier's mask slip just slightly. "She has a son." Sophie's brows lifted. "A son? Then tell me his name. If I can anchor her to it, she may respond." Jiho's lips parted, but no sound came. The silence in the corridor deepened, broken only by the faint hum of the ventilation. His duty warred with his instinct. Finally, he said it. "Kang Jiho." The name struck the air like a stone in water, rippling outward. Sophie froze, her pupils contracting. "Kang Jiho?" she repeated slowly. "You mean the billionaire? The one every newspaper in Asia talks about?" "Yes." Jiho's voice was clipped, guarded. "Do you know him?" Sophie held his gaze for a long second. Something flashed in her expression. Recognition, calculation, something more. But she swallowed it down, masking her thoughts with professional resolve. "That is not important right now." But the name clinked inside her like metal against glass. Jiho. Kang Jiho. "I need permission," Sophie said. "If I use this name, I must know that her family consents. I will not risk breaking protocol unless ordered." Jiho straightened, his hand tightening on the phone in his palm. "Then you will have it." He lifted the device at once, pressing speed dial. The line connected quickly, and King Jihoon's voice came through, deep and commanding even through the static. "Report." Jiho's tone softened with the smallest thread of deference, but urgency cut through. "Dr. Lee says her system is failing not only because of the poison, but because she has given up. She needs hope. She asks if there is family who could anchor her. I told her she has a son." The silence on the line stretched taut. Then the king's voice dropped lower. "You told her?" "Yes, King Jihoon." Even the faint sound of the king's breathing disappeared for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone was deliberate, as though carving each word into stone. "Dr. Lee is correct. If there is even the slightest chance she will respond to him, we cannot deny it. Tell her to use the name." "Yes, King Jihoon." Jiho lowered the phone, his chest rising once with restrained force. He turned back to Sophie. "The king gives his consent. Use Jiho's name. Tell her he is waiting." Sophie exhaled once, deeply, as though sealing a vow. "That is enough." She pulled her mask back up, snapping the straps behind her ears. For the first time, her composure cracked with a glimpse of determination so fierce it burned through her exhaustion. "I know what to do next," she said. And before Jiho could respond, she pushed back through the doors, vanishing once again into the realm of sterile lights and beeping machines. The corridor closed around Jiho in silence. His phone was still warm in his hand, the king's words echoing in his mind. He did not move. He did not pace. He stood, every muscle coiled, waiting for the sound that would decide whether Bora's story ended here or began again. The words froze the air. Sophie blinked once, her mind racing. Jiho was already scheduled to come to this hospital for a joyous reason, a gender check with his wife. "Thank you," Sophie replied quietly to the nurse, her face calm though her thoughts were turning sharply. She dismissed her with a nod. Jiho drove to the palace, the city blurring past as his thoughts churned faster than the engine. When he arrived, he briefed King Jihoon in person. Together they stood in the royal study, voices low but taut with urgency. As they spoke, Jiho's phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. He glanced at the screen. The name lit across it, Jiho. He answered at once, his tone steady though his chest felt tight. "Jiho." "Hyung." Jiho's voice came warm, casual, unaware of the storm waiting. "We're already on the way to the hospital. Neo is excited. Today we finally find out the gender of the twins." Jiho swallowed hard. His grip on the phone trembled slightly. "Good, that's good," Jiho went on, cheer in his tone. "We're seeing a new doctor today, Dr. Sophie Lee. You've heard of her, haven't you? She's excellent. Everyone talks about her." The words struck Jiho like a blow to the chest. For the first time in his life, he felt his knees weaken. He nearly dropped the phone. Sweat broke across his brow. Jiho, who had never flinched in battle, who had faced men with guns without blinking, suddenly felt faint. I've heard," he forced out, his voice rougher than usual. When the call ended, Jiho stood frozen. His world had narrowed to one impossible truth. Jiho was walking into the very hospital where his mother lay, fragile and tethered to machines. For the first time ever, Jiho felt fear, not of enemies, not of failure, but of betraying both the man he served and the truth he had guarded. And the clock was already ticking. "It is Jiho," he said at last. "He is coming to the hospital today for the checkup." King Jihoon's brows lifted, confusion flickering in his eyes. "And?" Jiho's throat tightened, but he forced the words out. "He is seeing Dr. Sophie Lee, the same doctor." The king's face stilled, the color draining slightly from his features. His voice, when it came, was low and disbelieving. "What?" "Yes," Jiho answered. "That is where he is heading, to the very same private wing." For a long moment, silence reigned. Two men who had stood unflinching against storms of politics and power now sat perplexed, their composure tested by the strange weight of one man's name, Jiho. Jihoon exhaled slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why is it that I have never feared anyone, Jiho, but the thought of Jiho, the mention of his name, makes me tremble?" Jiho met his gaze, his own expression caught between loyalty and unease. "Maybe it is because his mother is the sister of your own mother. Blood speaks, Majesty. He carries the same value, the same weight as you. Perhaps that is why you feel this way." The king's eyes darkened with thought. "And yet, even from the beginning, when I saw him on the news, standing beside Neo, there was something about him, something I could not dismiss. He was respectful, loving, fragile, and still strong in a way that defies description. He must be handled with care." Jiho nodded slowly. "Then how shall we proceed?" Jihoon leaned back, his jaw tightening. "Should we call his grandmother first? His father's mother is important to him. Perhaps she can prepare him for what lies ahead." Jiho hesitated. "Perhaps, yes, but time is against us. We have little margin left." The room grew quiet again, both men staring at the weight of the impossible choice. The clock ticked softly on the wall, each second a reminder that Jiho was already on his way. And then they said no more. Outside the executive private wing of the hospital, two black cars rolled to a halt. Security staff moved briskly to clear the path. The glass doors parted, and Jiho stepped out first, his hand reaching instinctively for Neo's. She followed, radiant in a flowing maternity dress that outlined the gentle curve of her belly. Her smile was soft, touched with anticipation. Jiho's expression was calm, but lit with quiet excitement, the kind only a father could feel on the day he was to learn the secret of his unborn children. Hand in hand, they walked toward the cleared entrance. Nurses bowed as they passed, the hush of respect echoing through the wing. The walls gleamed with sterile light, yet for Jiho and Neo, the moment felt full of warmth, as if they were stepping into a promise. Neither of them knew that just beyond the glass, hidden in the corridors of the same hospital, another story was unfolding, one that would soon tie their lives tighter than they ever imagined. And the doors of the private wing closed softly behind them. The operating bay swallowed Sophie back into its harsh light. "Vitals?" Sophie barked. "BP 80/40 and falling," a nurse replied. "Pulse thready, 43. O2 sat barely holding at 68. Push fluids. More saline. Keep the airway clear." Sophie moved closer, her gloved hand brushing aside tubes as she leaned directly over Bora's pale face. The woman's skin was clammy, her lips tinged blue-gray. Her chest rose only when the ventilator forced it. Sophie lowered her voice, no longer speaking to her team, but to the fragile body beneath her hands. "Kang Bora, can you hear me? Listen to me." She glanced at the team. "Quiet, all of you." The room stilled, leaving only the hiss of oxygen and the steady beep of monitors. Sophie bent closer. Her voice softened, but sharpened in intent. "Jiho is outside," she whispered. "Your son. He is waiting for you. He never knew what you carried. He never knew how much you loved him. But he wants to see you. He wants his mother alive." For a moment, there was nothing, just the mechanical whine of machines. Then one monitor blipped higher, a fractional rise but enough to make every head in the room snap toward the screen. "She reacted," Sophie said immediately, her eyes fierce. "Did you see that?" Again, she leaned lower. "Jiho, Kang Jiho, your son, he is here, waiting for you, come back to him." The line steadied, one jagged dip smoothing into rhythm. A faint twitch shivered along Bora's hand, almost imperceptible, but Sophie caught it. "That's it," Sophie breathed. "That's the anchor. Keep lavage going now. This is the window. Wash her system before it closes." Nurses moved with precision, flushing toxins, drawing blood, checking panels. Sophie never lifted her gaze from Bora's face. Every falter in rhythm, she repeated the name. Every shallow breath, she pressed the truth again. "Jiho is waiting. Do you hear me? He's outside and he wants you back. Not tomorrow, not later, now." The monitors danced between collapse and survival. Outside, Jiho stood like carved stone, his back pressed against the corridor wall. Every word that filtered through from the intercom reached him, but he didn't allow emotion to break his stance. He kept the line to King Jihoon open, reporting in clipped bursts. Inside, Sophie's team worked relentlessly. They flushed poison, balanced fluids, and pushed oxygen. The room was a storm of movement, clamps, syringes, suction tubes, but in the center, Sophie's steady whisper remained the constant. "Kang Jiho," she said again. "He's outside. He's waiting. You have to come back for him." The monitor beeped stronger, catching its own rhythm. Sophie's eyes lit for the first time that morning. "That's it. Hold her here. Don't let her slip." Her hand rested lightly against Bora's temple, gloved fingers trembling just slightly. She had seen patients brought back by machines, by adrenaline, by sheer accident, but rarely by words. This was different. This was not medicine alone. "Stay," Sophie whispered again. "For him, stay." The minutes dragged. The window narrowed. Sophie knew it would not last forever. But while it held, her team fought like soldiers on a front line, seizing every second of the fragile response. The machines took over fully, guiding breath, guiding heart, keeping her poised between death and life. "She's stable," a nurse reported at last, voice hushed with awe. "Stable is not safe," Sophie corrected sharply, but the faintest curve of relief touched her lips. "Move her to ICU. Now!" The doors burst open and the gurney rolled out into the corridor. Jiho straightened at once, his phone pressed to his ear. The sight of the stretcher, a pale figure beneath wires, tubes, and the slow hiss of oxygen, hardened his jaw. He spoke quickly into the phone. "King Jihoon, she is alive. They are transferring her to ICU now. The poison is out, but her mind, she is in induced coma." The king's voice came through, low and grave. "Induced?" "Yes. Dr. Sophie says her brain must rest. But, Majesty, listen carefully." Every time her son's name was spoken, she responded. It was the only thing that kept her open long enough for the team to work. Silence followed, then a sharp breath. "Kang Jiho?" the king murmured, as though tasting the truth for the first time. Jiho's gaze flicked to Sophie as she approached, pulling off her gloves, her eyes still burning with intensity despite the exhaustion etched into her face. He lowered the phone. "Doctor, speak to the king yourself." "Your Majesty," she said, her eyes steady. Her words carried through the secure video link to the palace. Jiho stood beside her, holding the tablet so King Jihoon could see. "The ball is in your hands now. We've stabilized her as far as medicine allows. What she needs is her son. Do everything possible to bring Kang Jiho into this hospital. He may be the only key to helping her fight her way back." On the other end of the connection, King Jihoon was seated in his private chamber at the palace, the morning light spilling across polished floors and tall windows. His posture was upright, his presence composed, though the gravity of Sophie's words pressed heavily on him. "Dr. Sophie Lee," he said slowly, his voice deep and controlled, yet touched with gratitude. "You have done what many would not have dared. To bring her to this stage from the brink of death, you have my respect. I will surely see that Jiho comes to her as soon as possible." His promise was both command and vow. Sophie gave a small nod, her professional composure unwavering, though inside she felt the tension of what lay ahead. For all her years in medicine, for all the patients she had saved and lost, this case was different. The line between science and something deeper, hope, love, memory, was blurred in ways she had rarely seen. Just then, the heavy door to the ICU wing swung open. A secretary nurse, dressed in pale blue scrubs and carrying a digital tablet, stepped quickly to Sophie. She bowed respectfully before speaking in a low but urgent tone. "Dr. Lee, the appointment for Kang Jiho and his wife has been confirmed. They will be arriving at midday. The executive private wing has already been cleared according to protocol."